So turning our attention to sustainability practices. Sustainability is a concept that recognizes that natural resources are finite. It seems obvious, but in the business world, sometimes there's a grab. In the business world, the producers of the consumer product want to just use as many resources as they can and then walk away. In a sustainability model, the producers do not treat the resources that way. The producer of the product recognizes that natural resources are finite and have to be both maintained and preserved in order to allow that particular business practice to go on for decades or centuries. An easy example of this that we probably are all somewhat familiar with might be a Christmas tree farm. If someone went in and bought a Christmas tree farm, and the very first December that rolls around, they cut down every single tree on the farm, what would they have the following year to market? Nothing. Takes a few years for trees to grow. So if you ever go to one of these Christmas tree farms, what you find is they cultivate the older trees every year, but the younger trees are allowed to grow year after year after year so that at every November, December, there is a good harvest of mature trees that can be cut down. And once those trees are cut down, what happens? The tree farmer plants new saplings that in another 10 years can then be cut. That's a very simple but very clear example of sustainable practices. The Christmas tree is the product, but it is renewed on a yearly or even multi-year basis so that the provider of the service always has more of the resources to pass along to the consumer. It doesn't actually add much to the cost because what is it to plant some saplings each year? It's not an exorbitant cost, but it does allow the business to go on year after year. Another example of sustainability practices is ecotourism. Ecotourism doesn't have a hard product that you can hold in your hands usually. Ecotourism is more of an experience. Or I shouldn't even say ecotourism. Tourism where people come to see the natural environment, let's put it that way. We use it here in Florida. Costa Rica is famous for it. Belize is trying to become famous for it. There's a lot of places in the world where the environment itself is the commodity being sold through tourism. So when you have a system like that, does it make a lot of sense, let's take Florida as an example, to allow offshore oil rigs to drill right off our coast? Probably doesn't. And if you look at a map of where oil rigs are in the Gulf of Mexico, they tend to be outside of Louisiana. They don't tend to be off the coast of Florida. And that's probably because the Florida powers that be recognize that if one of these oil rigs spills and that oil washes up on the shore in mass quantities, we're going to significantly affect our ability to bring in consumer dollars for tourism. Costa Rica, Belize, those are countries that have rainforest. It's a similar concept for ecotourism there. They don't cut down their rainforest for timber or for suburban sprawl. They maintain those resources because they know that's what brings in consumer tourism dollars. So those are just two examples, but the concept of sustainability can really apply to almost any type of supply and demand practice. In my opinion, it's a very good practice. It continues the ability of consumers to get the goods they want. It continues the ability of suppliers to make money off of producing products for the consumer, so it allows the economy to continue to grow, but in a fashion that preserves environmental resources, both in regard to limiting air, water, and soil pollution, and in regard to ensuring that the natural resources go on generation after generation. So that's sustainability in a nutshell.